Next guest, Yollanda Zhang, is a mental health possibilities coach. Through her own lived experience with bipolar disorder over the last 23 years, she has helped bring hope to those suffering in silence. Her passion and mission in life is to take the lessons she's learned from her struggles and share them with as many people as possible. Today, she is joining me to discuss new treatments for depression and bipolar disorder, including RTMS, brain spec, and ketamine. Welcome back to What She Said, Yolanda.
Thanks so much for having me, Candace. It's really great to see you again.
And having lived with bipolar disorder for over 2 decades, have you personally explored any of these new treatments I just mentioned?
I've actually explored and tried all three of those treatments
Oh,
myself.
excellent. Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, let's start with RTMS then, please.
sure. So RTMS stands for repeated transcranial magnetic stimulation. And this is where they place a bit of like a probe, or it could be a helmet that's placed on your head. And through magnetic stimulation, it actually targets the emotional center of your brain, which is usually the left frontal lobe. And it's supposed to help stimulate synapses happening or not happening in your brain, which tend to be the cause of severe depressive symptoms. And the stimulations last about 3 minutes. It's not really painful. It just feels like something tapping on you. It's quite different from ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy, and you are supposed to go every day for 30 days. So that's the RTMS treatment that I went through last year.
And did you find it made a significant impact?
So I have to mention that everything I share today is from my own personal experience, and everyone's experience will be different. So just because it worked for me or it didn't work for me, it doesn't mean someone else will have the same experience. So I really want to make that clear.
Right.
So for me, unfortunately, RTMS did not work, and it actually made my symptoms much worse. And this unfortunately happens to about 5% of the patients that try this treatment, because just like with medication, not every medication is right for everybody. But I have heard amazing stories of other people trying RTMS, which is why I put myself on the wait list for over a year before I got to have the treatments myself.
So let's move on to the next one then. Tell me about brain spec. What is that?
I'm not sure if I fully remember the entire acronym, but SPECT, I think it's single proton emission computed tomography. So it basically, you sit in this machine that feels and looks like an MRI. And Candace, I have pictures of all of these. So I'll send them to you. You can like splice them or do whatever so people can actually get a visual. Um, but it doesn't take very long. They inject a kind of dye into your like through IV, and it's checking for your blood flow in every part of your brain. And this is a treatment method that's used a lot for treatment of dementia, like diagnosis. It's not really used very widely in Canada for treatment or diagnosis of mental illness. So I actually had to go to New York City to have this procedure done, and it's at the Amen Clinic. And I've read a lot of books from Dr. Amen, which is why I was really interested in this. And the interesting thing that the scan discovered about me and my brain is that I actually have had some kind of childhood brain injury that definitely impacted my mood. And I didn't really know. And I asked my parents, they don't really remember. But the doctor said, it could be something very minor, but because of my sensitivity to these things, that could have really thrown me off track. And you can see it in the scan itself, which I have as well. I can share with you that there's a dark area, and that actually shows that there is no blood flow in that part of the brain. And also, I discovered that I actually have post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And that can all show in the actual scan based on hundreds of thousands of scans and the patterns that they discovered for people with this kind of scan tend to have these symptoms, and these kind of treatments would work better. So I was just trying to find more answers, and that was very interesting to me. And they also have a part that I was curious about because my grandfather died from Alzheimer's. And so I have a genetic predisposition. So part of the scan, they can actually tell whether you have early onset of Alzheimer's as accurate, or dementia as accurate as 7 years. So I thought, okay, I'm good for 7 years. I don't have that right now. So it gives you a bit of a peace of mind.
That's incredible. Let's get to the last one because I think this is probably the most controversial for people
Yeah.
is ketamine.
Yeah. So ketamine, is a really, yes, like you said, it's a bit controversial, or very controversial depending on your viewpoint. I have known about ketamine for almost 2 years. And I think because of the controversial nature of taking psychedelics, um, and the dangers around it, or you always hear about these things, I really resisted in trying it, even though I I I could have really used the help because I do have treatment resistant depression. And I know we talked about this before, but I've tried 33 different combinations of medications over 2+ decades. And the prerequisite to get into a ketamine treatment is 2 failed attempts. So
Wow.
I, more than,
You were
oh,
easily in.
yeah, I was easily in, but I just was like, psychedelics, I've never tried it before. I don't know. Is it going to make me worse? And so after RTMS failed for me, I thought this is it. I need to try this. I really don't have that many options left. I mean, how many more medications can I try? So I started ketamine treatments, and I have to tell you, like, again, everybody's reaction is going to be different. I don't want to bring false hope to anyone, but I went in to the infusion feeling so depressed. I barely could walk, like, just I was so down and tired and fatigued, and I was having suicidal ideation. They do a survey, right? Like, and so all these questions I answered yes to. And I woke up 2 hours later. I mean, I wasn't like cured or anything, but like I just felt this lightness, like this weight was just like lifted from my body, from my head. I was like, what did you guys do? Like, what is that? And also, why did I wait so long? Um, so the way ketamine works is that it actually helps your brain to develop more synapses. And it's called brain derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF. So if you think of it as like a garden, right? And our brain is just not like fertile enough to grow flowers. And that's what happens when you're depressed. It just doesn't have enough synapses. So ketamine stimulates and increases these BDNF levels, almost like Miracle Grow. It just like pours like Miracle Grow on this soil that is not growing anything, which is my brain. And then it just starts to like grow flowers, and it overnight, like it's like the beanstalk. So that's actually how really ketamine works. And it also blocks the activity of this other receptor called NMDA. I know it's like a lot of acronyms, but basically, if this receptor is blocked, then people who are depressed will not feel the depression as severely. The only downside, I mean, really, I think the only downside with ketamine is that it's not permanent. Um, it's not like, oh, I feel better and then I'm better forever. You have to keep going to get these treatments. For the first 4 weeks, I went twice a week. And it's a lot of time commitment because the clinic that I am going to, is in Mississauga. And so the whole experience takes half a day. And then I'm really tired by the end of it. And then I take another 2 hour nap. So basically, a whole day is gone, for me. Some people may not get so tired. It just depends. And then for the next 4 weeks, you go once a week. And so they stretch it out so that it increases what's called the durability of ketamine. But you, if you want to maintain wellness, you still have to do lots of other things like therapy, exercise, eating well. Ketamine doesn't replace those things, but it does make me more able to do them. Because when I was severely depressed, I could barely get out of bed. I'm not going to go out and exercise or have a, productive therapy session. But ketamine kind of just like lifts me up enough and gives me enough of those synapses in my brain that helps me to start doing more things that increases my wellness.
So, what advice would you give to someone then who's listening to this segment and is considering one of these treatments, but is not sure because, as you said, one worked, one didn't, and maybe it's cost, maybe it's nervousness. What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, and that is a really hard question for me to answer because everyone is just so different. I would say that the one biggest advice I would offer is don't give up hope. Like, really, whatever happens, don't give up hope. I've been there so many times where I just thought there's nothing more to do. Maybe this is the end for me. This is what my life is going to be like now. And it's really sad. So I know how that feels. And choosing a treatment is a tough decision, and it has to be something that you go into with an open mind and talk to with your doctor to make the best decision. And if I were to say choosing between RTMS, brain spec scan, ketamine, I mean, they're all quite different. I would choose RTMS because it's free in Canada. It's covered under OHIP,
Excellent.
whereas both of the other options are not. They're very expensive. I feel very privileged to be able to access those treatments. I wish more people could. I wish, I mean, this is a whole other podcast interview, but like my view on mental illness and physical illness and how they are treated. But really, I think the message I would love to deliver is just don't lose hope. Keep trying. You will get there. There will be a right solution for you. And I think having that mentality of positivity as much as possible, having a good support network, following Candace's amazing episodes with all these great women just fills you up with joy and hope. I think it's just really important to have more of those in your life. I think that's really important.
Well, I am so grateful that you share all of this very openly and publicly with people. It's important that you do, and you're doing such great work in all of that. So I want people to be able to immediately, when they're done listening to this, is go find you. So where can they do that?
So I post a lot about my journey on my LinkedIn account as well as Instagram. So Instagram might be the easiest place to look for me. My account is business.doula, or you can look for me on LinkedIn, Yollanda.Zhang on LinkedIn. So ZhangYollanda. And that's where I share a lot of videos, thoughts, resources, and feel free to connect with me. I would really love to be of support.
All right, incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was incredibly enlightening.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for you, Candace, to create this kind of platform for people, women, and to give me the opportunity. This is, I think, my third or fourth interview now with you, talking about different aspects of mental health. And I think you are incredible, like really to
Oh, thank you.
have this, it's not easy doing what you do. And I know that. And you really give a lot of voice to important issues. So thank you so much.
I'll have you back again soon.
I hope so.